Hey Vsauce, Joey here. The Assassin's Creed series takes place during real periods in history, but what parts of the game are actually based on those periods and what parts are completely made up? Some deeper historical context might help. For example, the organizations in the game. Did the Order of Assassins and the Knights Templar actually exist? Well, the Assassins were a real order of Shiite Muslims founded by Hassani Sabath during the First Crusade. Instead of direct attacks, Sabath would send out particularly devoted members of the order to kill high-ranking enemy leaders. In fact, it's currently thought that the term assassin is derived from the word asasiyun, meaning those faithful to the Foundation. In the game, the assassin stronghold of Masyaf is the headquarters of the order, and while this was the case during the game's time frame, 1191, the layout of the castle is mostly fictionalized. The Assassins' power began to wane as the Mongol Empire destroyed many of their strongholds in the 13th century, and by the 14th century, the last remnants of the original Brotherhood were swept away. So while assassination techniques may have been passed down since then, like in Renaissance Italy or colonial America, the actual order of assassins was long gone. Now, the antagonist of the series, the Knights Templar, is another real organization that's been the source of many conspiracy theories for centuries. Founded as a monastic order shortly after the First Crusade, they were tasked with the protection of Christian pilgrims in the Holy Land. Initially an impoverished order, the Knights grew in terms of wealth and power due to the Pope's favor. Between military victories against Muslims and using their assets to set up a banking system for pilgrims, the Knights Templar became one of the most powerful organizations in the world. However, the Crusades dragged on, and Muslims eventually regained much of the Holy Land. The Knights lost their citadels and the people's favor, and were accused of heresy by the King of France just so he could skip out on his debts with them. By 1312, the Church officially disbanded the organization. And while several groups have claimed to be the philosophical heirs to the Knights Templar, such as the Freemasons, there's no direct link of any kind. So tales of eternal struggle between the Assassins and Knights past the Crusades are pretty much unfounded. Another intriguing topic is how the Assassins carried out their deadly deeds. In what ways are the game's weapons and tactics realistic? The original Assassins carried out attacks with a knife or other blade as their main weapon, but unfortunately the retractable hidden blades in the game didn't really exist. In addition, Assassins didn't normally use poison, bows, or arrows. These were thought to be sloppy and increased the target's chance of survival. But alongside the blade, Assassins also used intimidation to achieve their objectives. The famous Sultan Saladin, who was referenced in the first game,
"Be strong! Strong like Salahadin!"
woke from his sleep one night to find a dagger and a note on his pillow saying that he would be killed if he attacked the assassin stronghold of Masyaf. Soon after, he brokered a truce with the assassins. Another tactic worth noting is the aversion of collateral damage to innocent bystanders, a feature present in the game. But in order to assert their fearlessness, assassins did sometimes carry out their killings in public, which players also find themselves doing in the games. This devotion to their mission was a famous trait of the Order. Upcoming downloadable content for Assassin's Creed 3, which takes place during the American Revolution, will include a storyline where George Washington becomes a tyrant and king of the United States after successfully defeating the British. It's an interesting bit of alternate history, but the question remains, if he wanted to, could George Washington have become king of America? Well, there were at least 2 points in history where such a result could have realistically taken place. The first was at the very end of the Revolution, when several officers in the Continental Army, angry at not being paid by Congress, were looking for a strong single figure to take complete control of the new country. Washington easily could have filled this role. If successful in convincing the enlisted men, the next steps would have involved marching on Philadelphia, dissolving the Congress, and convincing the state governments to acquiesce to his stabilizing central leadership, via a second war if necessary. Instead, Washington quelled the discontent with a speech to his men urging the primacy of republicanism, and resigned his commission as commander-in-chief later that year. However, another chance at near unlimited power was given to Washington when he was elected the first president in 1789. During Washington's administration, he set many standards for the office still in place today, including its limitations. His armed suppression of farmers during the Whiskey Rebellion was met with popular approval, and it's not out of line to think he could have extended his executive powers with the people's support, bypassing the nascent Congress if necessary. He also refused to run for a third term, a custom kept by every president until FDR in 1940. However, he could have easily stayed in office until he died, setting the dangerous precedent of the imperial presidency. Even in modern times, the American people have shown a tendency to re-elect politicians in perpetuity. The Senate alone has had several long-term office holders only give up their seats in death. It's not hard to imagine US presidents also being re-elected for decades, all following Washington's potential example. So generally, the historical context of Assassin's Creed is both real and accurate. Even its alternate timelines are not too far afield. By blending myth and fact, the games are able to stimulate interest in history spanning 1,000 years. And hidden blades. Lots of interest in hidden wrist blades. And as always, thanks for watching.